believe it, man. It's not true.
I knew it too.
He sells a line for everything. I think this is hard work.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the September meeting of the Council Rock Board of School Directors, and officially welcome to the new school year. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If I could have Drum Major Eric Wang start us, please.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome everybody. We are the Council Rock North Marching Band, and we're real excited to play a little bit of our 2019 competition show for you, entitled Imagination, featuring the music from the movie Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, specifically Pure Imagination. It's entirely based upon that and some new music that was written by Ben Hilton. So you'll recognize some things, not everything probably, but some things. And if you really like what you hear, come on out on October 12th. It's our annual marching band competition that we host over at Walt Snyder Stadium. That'll start at 2 o'clock right after Fall Festival. So you can do Fall Festival in the morning and come check out area marching bands in the afternoon. Love to see you all there supporting our band. And as always, thank you all for your continued support of the music program here at Council Rock. So without further ado, I'm going to go back there, and they're going to play a little bit of the beginning of their show, Pure Imagination.
Thank you.
thanks again for having us. And again, October 12th, it's a Saturday, 2 p.m. And I swear it looks even cooler when you see it moving on the field, too. And they move a lot. So thanks again. See you all then.
Great job, Mr. Bishop. Thank you.
Good job, man.
Nicely done.
Need help?
Madam Secretary, may I have a roll call, please?
Denise Brooks.
Here.
Joe Hidalgo.
Present.
Christine Marcel.
Here.
Marion McKee.
Here.
Ed Solomon.
Here.
Ed Tate.
Here.
Mike Thorort.
Here.
Andy Block.
Here.
And Mark Byler.
Mr. Bialik is traveling on business this evening. Dr. Frazier, Superintendent's Report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Block. Good evening, members of the board and members of our Council Rock community. We are going to start this evening with a very special annual September presentation that we make regarding some of our S.A.G.E volunteers. And I know that we have some media in the house here this evening, so I hope that you have a chance to get some of this footage because this is an amazing program filled with amazing people. S.A.G.E stands for Senior Adults for Greater Education. This group does a tremendous amount of good in our schools, both for students and for our teachers as well. And today, like we do each September board meeting, we have the opportunity to recognize a few select S.A.G.E volunteers who each accumulated last year over 100 hours of volunteer time in our schools. Very impressive. Each of them, 100 plus hours. Altogether, I'll tell you that our S.A.G.E volunteers volunteered 4,000 hours last year. And to translate that number into a monetary figure, we're talking about a value add of about $102,000 that these folks have contributed to our schools here in the Council Rock School District. So thank you, Beryl Katz. I see you. Thank you, Kathy Scherzer. See you. And without further ado, I would like to invite the two of you to come forward. Mr. Block and I will meet you down there, and we would love to honor these outstanding men and women of our community who have volunteered so much in our schools. All right, fantastic. So when we call your name, if you wouldn't mind coming on up, Kathy and Beryl will be here. President Andy Block will as well, and he'll have a very nice Council Rock School District certificate to give to you. So starting off, we have Janice Magri, 152 hours at Hillcrest Elementary. All right, fantastic, Janice. Thank you. Next, we have Rolanda Paulins, Sulfinestone, 100 hours. Larry Ream, Council Rock High School North, 259 hours. All right, well, Mr. Ream is evidently unable to be with us, but 259 hours certainly is deserving of a shout out, I think. All right. Ron Rosenberg, Richboro Elementary, 100 hours. And Sylvia Rosenberg, also Richboro Elementary, and also 100 hours. So seeing some familiar faces, recognizing not only from seeing in schools, but seeing here at this meeting last year as well. Very impressive. Very impressive. Thank you. I'm not sure that any of these other folks are here, but they certainly deserve recognition. And if you do happen to be here, please come on up. We have Helen Rosenfarb, Richboro Elementary, 100 hours. We have Linda Bernstein, Marina M. Welsh Elementary, 119 hours. We have Bernie Collin, Hillcrest Elementary, 200 hours. We have Kathleen Francis, Richboro Elementary, 143 hours. And we have Lorraine, I'm going to mispronounce this name, I'm sorry, Impetro? I am Petro? Okay, I am Petro. Lorraine, I am Petro, Richboro Elementary, 102 hours. Congratulations to all of them. Thank you to all of them. All right, thank you again. That S.A.G.E program is simply outstanding. Couldn't do it without you, that is for sure. In terms of the start of the school year, I will say this. Aside from some transportation issues that you all know we've been dealing and struggling with, I have to say that I am exceptionally happy with our first 13 days of school. I'm proud of our students, I'm proud of our staff, our parents, this board, everyone's role in creating a really positive opening. We'll get to that transportation piece, but aside from transportation, just really silky smooth, very happy, and I think that we all should be just as happy. And I cannot talk about the opening of the school year without talking about redistricting. Redistricting, by virtually every possible indicator, has been a resounding success. And no, our transportation problems are in no way, shape, or form connected with redistricting. In fact, I think it's just quite unfortunate that those two things happen to be, happening at the same time, and we have some guilt by association there. Our redistricting plan, none of us knew for sure going into it. Now that we're 2.5 weeks into the school year, 13 days into the school year, it is working. It is working from a number standpoint. It's working from a feedback standpoint from our students, from our parents, from our teachers. I have thanked these folks more directly. Now I want to thank them more publicly. All of our elementary administrators, our elementary staff members, our parent organizations, all of you just rolled out the red carpet for these new students, these new families, and created this very warm welcome into your schools. And that's awesome, and that's what it's all about. And I think that already there is a genuine sense of belonging that our students and our parents feel. So that is really outstanding. And again, I'm very thankful on behalf of our students and our families for that being the case. On tonight's agenda, just a quick note, one of the action items is approval of our strategic plan. We presented that in some level of detail last month's board meeting. It has been posted on the website ever since and open to comments. And hopefully you have had a chance to look at it, because I think there is some really good stuff in there. The three goal areas that we have are student wellness, redefining student success, and school safety and security. So that is our focus over the next 4 years. I have said in the past, I'll say again, it's a 4-year plan, probably with about 7 or 8 years worth of work in it. It's robust. And that's okay, because everything that we have in this plan is just top-level priority and very important to us as educators, as students, as parents, and all of us working together. If you have not had a chance to look at that plan, please do. It's on our website. You can also go in the board docs for this evening. Now, in board docs this evening, you'll see a PDE version of it. That's what the board is actually requested to approve this evening. It's 190-some pages. It's quite dense. It's not very intuitive. I don't recommend going through that version. But we have a much more simple version. It's about 24 pages. And then we have an even briefer version that I think is about 5 pages. So take the time, please, to go through that plan because it really lays out our foremost priorities for our students K-12 over these next 4 years. Now, speaking of school safety and security, I do want to note that we actually had a communication ready to go home today to parents from me about our ALICE implementation and specifically an enhanced lockdown drill that we were going to be doing at our schools next Thursday, September 26th. That letter obviously did not go home. We have chosen to put the brakes on that, and I want to tell you why we've chosen to put the brakes on this, because some of you have probably seen this. We're going to delay this by about 2 or 3 weeks because over the past couple or a few days, a public service announcement has come out from Sandy Hook Promise. There's a video. It's only about a minute long. If you haven't seen it, as a parent, it might be worth your while to Google it. I would do that just as a parent without your children beside you. You can decide what they see or don't see. So it's a little bit chilling. It's a bit alarming. And our concern today, once this came to our attention, was, hey, if some of our kids are seeing this, and then next week we're going to have them go through this enhanced lockdown experience, that psychologically just it might not be the smartest thing for us to do. So we've decided K-12 to bump this back. We will reset that date. With any of these kinds of drills around ALICE, there will always be front-end communication from the district and the principal, and back-end communication, at least from the principal, and in this case from the district as well. So again, it's a quick 1 minute, I think, PSA from Sandy Hook Promise, and just knowing that it's making its rounds, not only through social media, but through some mainstream media. It was on the Today Show, I think, yesterday, and something with Fox today. So it's out there. We're not sure exactly how many folks will see it or how they'll feel about it, but certainly it doesn't feel like the right time for us to be moving into that enhanced lockdown drill. So we're gonna create some separation, create a little buffer before we do that. All right, and now on to transportation. Allow me to start by discussing the impetus of the problems that we have been facing. And I've said this before, so this will be no surprise. The impetus of these problems is a bus driver shortage. And I want to be crystal clear on this. The drivers that we have employed by First Student and serving the Council Rock School District are terrific. Absolutely wonderful. We need more of them. And I'll explain that a little bit more. This driver shortage is not unique to Council Rock. It's not unique to Bucks County. It's a nationwide struggle in the transportation industry, both for school buses, school transportation, as well as the trucking industry. In Council Rock, as I said, First Student is the company that we contract with to provide buses and bus drivers. When our contract was drawn up in 2015 with First Student, 150 new propane buses were part of that equation. Now that 150 number is important to note because right now, today, and going into tomorrow, we have 134 drivers. So going into each and every day, going into this morning, we're at a deficit there of 16. And then like happens in any industry, as educators in the private sector, obviously you don't have 100% attendance every day. So we're averaging about 9 call-outs a day, which is fair. This is people have lives and doctor's appointments and things to care for. So we're down 16, now we're down another 9, so now we're down 25. So we are down 25 drivers on a typical day before the day even begins. This driver shortage certainly has caused issues for us in recent years. We had grown, I had grown, frustrated and tired with these problems. Knowing this, our Council Rock School District Transportation Department set out over the summer to reroute so that we would need fewer bus drivers, just looking for a solution to that problem. The result of this work would be that buses would be more full than perhaps they have been in the past, and the other result would be that we would have fewer bus stops because we want our maximum ride time to be 55 minutes, and if we have more students on those buses, then you need to have less bus stops. So this is all work that Council Rock did, not First Student, in response to the driver shortage. And what I'll tell you is that our transportation set out this summer to do this work with the absolute very best of intentions. In doing so, however, I will tell you that our team made some assumptions that were simply too aggressive, and ended up causing some of the issues that we have been facing and continue to face. So let me give you two examples. One of them is ridership. We all know that 100% of students don't ride the bus. They're assigned to the bus, they don't all ride the bus. That's particularly true at the high school level, far less true at the elementary level, but there's always some truth to that, and this is a typical school district practice to say, hey, we're not exactly sure what that percentage of ridership is going to be, but we know it's not going to be 100. Again, we, Council Rock, were too aggressive in making those assumptions, and the result was some overcrowded buses. That's not on First Student. That's on the Council Rock School District. Then the other piece is because we needed fewer bus stops, what that translated into was, in some cases, a high number of students at individual bus stops. And frankly, too many students at some individual bus stops. So that's the other piece where I would say that, hey, all of this was done with really good intentions, trying to address issues that I wanted addressed, and the ultimate reality of it had some unintended consequences. So people have asked what caused this issue. That's really the answer. It's a combination of those two things: driver shortage, trying to address the driver shortage. Some good things happened with trying to address the driver shortage, and some not so good things happened with trying to address that driver shortage. And so this is where we're at today. Despite that, I've heard some rumblings that this was caused by redistricting. I talked about that earlier. Redistricting literally has nothing to do with this, and we weren't sure, as we sat here this time last year, how redistricting would impact transportation, but no connection whatsoever to that. I've also heard that the issue is caused by new software that we're using. That software is called TransFinder. What I'll tell you is that it's not quite that new anymore. We first used TransFinder for the extended school year program back in the summer of 2017, and then we used TransFinder for the routing for the 17-18 school year, and again last year for the 18-19 school year. So that was not something that was new for the current 19-20 school year. And then I've also heard some commentary about changes in personnel in our transportation department. What I can tell you there is that the same routers who did the routing work last year for the 2018-19 school year are the same folks that did the routing for this current 2019-20 school year. And I think that we would all agree that we had far fewer issues last year than what we've had this year. And along with that, I do want to note that Matt Adams, who is our transportation manager, Mr. Adams was only hired last month. And his first day with us in this building, in the office, on the job, was Monday, August 19th. That date might ring a bell to some of you. Monday, August 19th was the morning the hack went live. So Mr. Adams had the good fortune, I'm being facetious, of walking in his first morning on the job, the hack goes live. So point being, he literally did none of the work, had no oversight of any of the work over the summer. So there have been just a couple comments that I've seen about people's credentials and whatnot, and so I wanted to put that issue to rest. Mr. Adams has done a phenomenal job for us. He's walked in, obviously, to some extremely difficult circumstances, and he has handled himself and led that department very admirably, in my opinion. And by the way, he's a parent in the district, lives in the Welsh area. One of the buses that we've been having difficulty with actually services his neighborhood, and his child rides that bus. So for what that's worth, I'll share that. So what actions have been taken? Top priority, obviously, safety. It always is. It always will be. Address safety issues first. We've moved countless bus stops. We have addressed overcrowding issues on buses. We did have some overcrowding issues on buses, and I regret that. We all regret that. We have, throughout the course of these first 12, 13 days, added 7 new vehicles to the roads. We've added 27 new routes. We have moved a number of students from one bus to another bus, and that may have been to ease overcrowding on that original bus, or it may have been to ease the timing concerns that we were facing on that original bus. And one of the things that's happening, because we're doing this more and more as we're looking for solutions to these, is whenever we have that move, then it's going to change. It's probably not going to change bus stop, although it might, but it certainly is going to change pickup time, drop-off time, not only for the students who are moved, but for other students who were on that bus as well, because you had X number of students riding that bus, and now you have 3 more, or 5 more, or 8 more. So I do ask for people's understanding of that as we continue to address these concerns. What else are we doing? On tonight's agenda is a contract that we're requesting board approval for. It's with TSI. It's a busing company that we have some experience with. They will not be able to provide a tremendous amount of buses or drivers, but on a given day, if we're in bad shape, dire straits, for whatever reason, lots of uncovered buses, we might be able to get 3, we might be able to get 4, we might be able to get 5, we might not be able to get any on a given day. But we actually reached out to, over the past several days, Mr. Stone, Director of Business Administration, and Mr. Adams, Transportation Manager, reached out to 7 different transportation companies saying, okay, we have this issue, we have this problem, it's unfair to students and parents. What are the multitude of ways we can address that? And one of them is by supplementing first student service. 5 of those 7 came back and said, we just don't have the drivers either. Again, and that's not a first student. It's not their fault that they don't have the drivers. They've worked hard at it. I appreciate their hard work at it. There's a driver shortage all across this country. So those other companies are finding it as well. But with the passage of this TSI contract this evening, at least we will be slightly better off than without that. As you all know, I have been providing a daily written update. Some are brief, some are not brief. I am, and this will continue to be the case, if nothing else, thorough and transparent. It's my core belief. For some people, that's too much information. For some people, it's not enough information. I understand that. I accept that. But I will always err on the side of being thorough and transparent as opposed to not being those two things. As I noted in yesterday's update, our work at this point really has shifted pretty exclusively to addressing timing issues. And I'm going to tell you, it's not an easy task at this point. We've addressed just really hundreds and hundreds of issues already. These are some of the more macro ones, and the analysis that our team went through today suggests that if we could add 4 buses, right? So we're down that 16, depending on call-outs, maybe 25. If we could just add 4 buses, those 4 buses alone would solve 12 of the timing issues that we have. We have the 4 buses. We don't have the 4 bus drivers. So that's that remains the central problem. That remains what we're fighting up against, and we will continue doing that work on our own, and we will continue doing that work with First Student. And I'll finish by simply saying that this issue has been, will continue to be our top priority. We've been working tirelessly. I've been looking at these folks who have been in the trenches, working absolutely tirelessly in attempt to get these issues rectified. Please know that when it comes to these issues that we're experiencing, I think we all want the same exact thing. We want our children to experience transportation on a daily basis that's safe, that's timely, and it gets them to and from our wonderful schools for every child, every single day. That's what you want. That's what we want. We're working hard at it. We'll continue working hard at it. Where there are issues where our hands are tied a bit from a driver standpoint, we'll acknowledge those. We'll continue to acknowledge those. Where there exist opportunities for us directly to solve problems, then our mindset is we cannot solve them fast enough. And we cannot communicate them fast enough, and we cannot get them implemented fast enough. So that has been the case, and you have my word that will continue to be the case. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Frazier. And just a quick statement on behalf of the board. The board's gotten tons of emails, and I guarantee you, even if we didn't respond, we've all read them all. This is all over social media, soon to be in the media. We hear you. All we can do is sit up here and say we're sorry, but that doesn't mean anything because that doesn't change what's happening. What we can say is that Dr. Frazier and his team are working overtime, things that you don't see, to try and deal with some of these issues that we're faced with, the ones that were self-created and the ones that are exacerbating those. And this board stands behind them in everything that they do and will give them the freedom to do everything they need to do to get this situation fixed as quickly as possible. So appreciate what you guys are doing and what you guys are doing, and we owe you better and we'll get you better. So with that, we'll go to the the solicitor's report.
Mr. Black, the board held an executive session on September 12th on potential construction, litigation, and a personnel matter, and that's all I have to report in a public setting.
Thank you, Mr. Cox. With that, we're going to move to public comment. We've got 30 minutes of public comment scheduled. In the interest of the other meetings, I'm going to hold everybody to their 3 minutes. I will stop you at 3 minutes. I assume that we'll hear a lot tonight, so if your name's not on the list, feel free to line up after those that we have called. Know that we're here to listen to your comments, so you won't hear any responses from the board. But with that, we'll start with Ms. Tracy Phelan, please.
Good evening. My name's Tracy Phelan. I'm new to the district as a parent of a first grader who, on his first day of school in Council Rock, he watched his bus fly right by our house. The driver eventually returned, told us she was overloaded and that she would leave my son at school on his first day of school until they figure this out, and they still haven't. Since then, I've started talking to parents all over the district and learned we're not alone in our overcrowded bus that left my child at a bus stop that was across a busy street. That, and our 1 hour long commute, is a norm. Then I started talking to the bus drivers. These are the people being told to drive the wrong way on one-way streets in Newtown. Told to drive on roads and bridges where they know their bus exceeds the weight limit, but the district doesn't seem to care. Told to drive overloaded, which the district never told them is illegal. These are the worst cases, but in almost every case, drivers are being told to drive in circles because their routes don't make sense. Or they're told to drive overlapping routes that could help the buses that are overloaded. But instead, the district just adds more buses. But the extra buses deplete our pool of substitute drivers, so our families have to wonder if the bus will show up each day. Because if the driver is sick, it might not. It didn't the other day. And the new transportation department doesn't know what's causing the problem or how to fix it because they've never done this before. The two are fresh from the trucking industry and two were district secretaries before April. This is the first time in over 35 years that no one in the department has any experience creating routes, let alone driving them. To these inexperienced, underqualified people, our children are cargo. and do not need to be transported safely. To them, it's fine to stack and cram them, 84, 94 of them, into 77 passenger buses, which they tried. These inexperienced and underqualified people in their new software from 2017 do not know our schools, our students, our roads, or our traffic situations. Buses are outrageously late, especially in the afternoons, because their routes are unfeasible in the world outside their office or the computer, making buses a minute or more late for each stop, and those minutes add up, stop after stop. Dr. Fraser blames blames a driver shortage from first student. I've been told by the experts that there's never been a year when there hasn't been a driver shortage. Yet parents and our children have never felt that burden before. The experts who did the job in the past understood our roads and our schools and our families and were able to make it work efficiently with what they had. Adding more buses also adds more cost to the problem. How much are the 7 extra buses or the supplementary buses for the taxpayers? How much is the extra fuel for those buses, added to the wasted fuel for all the buses that drive in circles? And how much is the overtime we're paying the people who created the problem to fix it when they've proven that they cannot? Luckily, the district's starting to realize that the people who can fix the problem are employed by our district. The solution, Mr. Block,
Thank you, Mrs. Phelan.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Phelan, thank you. I want to just address a couple of these points here that you made and leave the others untouched, at least for the time being. You asked about the overtime budget. So part of what happened within our transportation department over the past several months, and I believe that you are fully aware of this, is that we had a void in the transportation manager position over the summer months. So when you factor that in, obviously we weren't paying any salary, paying any benefits. The overtime that has been incurred, which has not been tremendous, but there has been some. We are still significantly under budget overall if you take a look from, say, May or June to present day, when you net all that out. Those folks downstairs were doing that work without a manager, and frankly, my hat is off to them. I understand, again, as I have noted in the past, and I noted this evening, that some of the assumptions were too aggressive. They were fairly indisputable. What I will also say, though, is that none of the 3 of them are interested in cramming students in. So I know that those 3 individuals care. I know that they care tremendously. And if there would be any desire for further conversation, I'll be more than happy to have that. Thank you.
Wendy and John McGrowley, did I get that right?
Good evening. My name is Wendy McGrody. I do not have a student that is enrolled in Council Rock schools at this current time, but I do have a student that is transported by Council Rock transportation system. Unfortunately for us, what these parents are experiencing today and these past weeks, we've been experiencing over the past year and a half. So this is nothing new to us where transportation issues are concerned. I have a daughter that has special needs. She is cognitively disabled, nonverbal, and has a chronic medical condition that mandates that she's transported in a timely manner. My husband and I see to it that she arrives to her learning institution every morning by way of a personal vehicle. We rely on Council Rock's transportation for only one way, and that is to pick her up from school and return her to her home in a timely manner, none of which has happened in the last year and a half. As a special needs child, my child has been repeatedly left at the school with no transportation, no notification, no nothing from the transportation of Council Rock, letting me know that my child is not being transported for the day. Just recently, at the beginning of this school year, what has happened is that in August, my child started her school session a week before Council Rock did. my transportation individual at the high school that my child attends reached out to your transportation and verified that there would be transportation. On the very first day, she was left stranded, no vehicle. My husband and I had to leave our place of employment and transport her home. This is a child that is nonverbal and has serious cognitive disability and has a medical condition that mandates that she return home in a timely manner to receive medication. Throughout this year, I've been repeatedly dropped off an hour and a half late coming home, as well as being left on her home at her school with nobody to stand by her side waiting for a transportation that never arrived. This is clearly in violation of mandated federal law that stipulates in an individual educational plan that I find appalling on the behalf, because when I do contact Council Rock, the response that I get, is we threw her paperwork out in August. And then the response that I get, I've made a special plan for her. I have a service that's going to pick her up, which is the equivalent of an Uber driver in a black Honda with a man called James picking my disabled child up. In what world would any of you as parents find that acceptable? I asked, you talk about resolving tirelessly. I implore this board to get with it, to find some resolution to this, because I'm sure that my problem is being compounded too because of what these individuals here are facing as well. I have nothing more to say other than I am deeply disappointed in the response that I got from both transportation and everyone on this board that we have repeatedly emailed over the months. And this is not the first time. Thank you.
Katie Gannon, please.
I have had a student in the district for the past 9 years, and our bus stop has always been at our house. We live on a major intersection on a main road. Our house is 2 feet from the street where there are frequent accidents, cars driving down 50 miles per hour. I looked at my son's bus stop, it said curbside, always said curbside. When I saw his schedule, or the bus schedule, it was clearly not curbside. So I called and I spoke with Matt Adams on August 26th, and I explained to him that I'm a little bit probably more sensitive because I saw my best friend get hit by a car that was running the bus while I was in the bus when I was in high school. I explained to him the hazards of the intersection that I live on, and he was not interested in any of it. He told me I needed to teach my 7-year-old how to cross the street, and he said it's not worth moving a bus stop because there's less than a 1% chance that my son will get hit by a car and killed. I do not believe that this is quote-unquote professional people that we should be hiring for our district when they're telling parents that it's okay that, it's only okay if your son dies because it's only less than 1% chance. Thought that was the end of it. He did end up switching it. The next week, my son, who again is 7 years old, bus didn't leave the school until 4:30. Nobody told us. We didn't get any information from transportation, administration, or the school. He didn't get home until an hour after he was supposed to be dropped off. Next day, same thing. He was a half an hour late. No communication. Called school, no answer. Called transportation, they said, we'll take your number and give you a call back. I'm frantic at work, having a panic attack. Where is my son? Did he get on the bus? Did he not get on the bus? No idea where he is. I feel like I speak for a lot of parents when I say communication would drastically reduce the amount of anger towards it. If a bus is going to be late, let us know. If a bus in the morning is going to be late, let us know. If we spend millions, or I don't know how much, we spend a lot of money on technology, and this is just unacceptable. You send out an email every night, Dr. Fraser, I appreciate that. But if you can send out an email every night, why can't you send out an email in the afternoon saying, hey, your bus is going to be late? I missed a whole lot of points I was going to say. our main concern was Matt Adams was extremely rude to me on the phone, and I just feel like I'm a taxpayer and he shouldn't be speaking to parents like that. And if he spoke to me like that, I'm sure he spoke to a lot of other people like that as well. So, I mean, maybe you want to address that situation with him. And this was all before the chaos, before the start of school started too, so.
Thank you, Ms. Gannon.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Gannon. And Ms. Gannon and for everyone, I had written about this, I don't know, I guess it was mid to late last week maybe. We had one day in particular where we had numerous buses, elementary buses that were late. Communication was frankly a disaster going home to parents, and the very next morning we called First Student Management in, and our internal team met to say, let's get the plan going. Some of the plan was in existence, not enough of it wasn't in existence, and execution is what it's all about. There's no sense in having a plan if you're not going to execute the plan. So basically, to reiterate what I had communicated last week, and I'm sorry if for any individual situations where this has not happened since then, we get notification from First Student that this bus, this bus, this bus are running late, or there's a substitute driver, or this one has to go do a run here, so another bus is going to be taking over. In some cases, and these are the most problematic ones, we have had cases where there just is not a driver for one of our core afternoon runs. And so the word that we get from First Student is that we're going to have to do what's called a double run. So the bus comes, picks up their children, drops them off, returns to the school, picks up that bus full of students who should have left a half hour ago, 40 minutes ago, I don't know, and then goes to drop them off. I mean, those are the most egregious situations, and feel terribly, terribly for our students, first and foremost. But let me finish. So from a communication standpoint, any bus that is arriving to the school after 4 o'clock, 4 o'clock that's our timeline to say that a bus is late if it's arriving after 4 o'clock. Then we should be getting word from First Student an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours before that, as soon as they know. And then our transportation office will put out a message via Blackboard to parents of that family saying, hey, here's the ETA on that. And then once that bus actually gets to the school and leaves, then the building principal or principal secretary, someone in that front office, is then sending another text, email out saying, hey, the bus has left. Now, I'm going to tell you that in the past few days, we have struggled just with getting accurate information. So, by way of example, 2 different times we had, and I don't know if any parents are in here from these buses, but we had a situation saying that, bus so-and-so from this elementary school is running about 25 minutes late. We put out that information, right? So parents are expecting that, and lo and behold, the bus actually shows up early, which it had never done, and the kids then are getting home early. So the principal in this particular case was tied up, addressing another issue, and the parents were shocked. Some of the parents were coming to the school to pick up their kids, and the kids are either home or on the bus. So fully acknowledge that we are struggling just from an accuracy standpoint with the communication. The system is there, the norms are there, everybody knows what they're supposed to do, but getting accurate information and then being able to make sure that when we put a message out to parents that in fact it is accurate, admittedly has proven to be a challenge in recent days. So, Ms. Gannon, I hear you loud and clear. I am sorry. It's something that we are all continuing to focus on, and every time we have a situation like this, I am in direct contact myself with the first student manager saying, explain this. What happened here? How did this happen? And hopefully, as the days progress, we'll see improvement. But please know that we certainly understand.
What about with Matt Adams, who spoke with me and said it was okay, basically okay, that if my time was
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If that happened, this is the first I think I'm hearing of that. If that was the exchange, then that's unacceptable. It's not the customer service that we provide in this school district. It won't be the customer service that we provide in this school district. I'll say that, from what I have observed of Mr. Adams, I haven't seen that, but I'm certainly not in a position here to sit here and dispute what you're saying. So, we'll make sure that we have a conversation about that tomorrow, because I don't want that to be the experience for any of our parents. So thanks.
Okay. I had Cindy Lawn here next, but Margie came in and put some lines in here.
Yep, I'm
So
talking before Cindy.
I think.
Okay. Hi, my name is Margie Rizicka, and I work at Council Rock High School South as a teacher assistant. I've been employed by this district for 22 years. I am currently the treasurer of Council Rock Education Support Professional Association. I would like it to be known that many of our support staff have exceeded job responsibilities and assisted and continue to assist with the transportation problems the district currently faces. How vital is our presence to this community? I ask you. I would hope our contribution is recognized by this school district and they would negotiate a fair contract with us. Thank you.
Cindy?
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Cindy Lawn. I am the Council Rock Education Support Professionals President, and I'm just here to share some numbers with you. One of them is that the cost of living indices are up nationally about 18% since 2009. And in that same period, the support staff at Council Rock has seen less than 10% in wage increases. And in addition, they're paying premiums for their health care, a few percentage points less than employees who are making approximately 4.5, 5 times their average salary. This means that many of us in the support staff are actually bringing home less money than we did a decade ago. Many of us have second jobs, sometimes third jobs, to keep the cars repaired, to keep the mortgage paid. We are often doubling up with family members and taking money from our working children. Another thing I want you to consider is that in Pennsylvania, a family of 2 is eligible for food stamps at $21,000. The average support staff, full-time support staff member is making approximately $23,000. We care deeply about the needs of our district. We understand that kids need a very safe, comfortable, and repaired school in order to learn properly. We also understand that we need to have up-to-date technology in order for our kids to get the quality of education that Council Rock is known for. So given all of this and given what we understood about this, we presented the district with what we considered a reasonable and thoughtful proposal back last January. And we have not changed our view of that. We are currently about $200,000 apart in our contract. That's less than 1/100th of the budget. And we would like very much for you to think about the kind of message that you're giving to people who work very hard, as everybody does, But we work very hard in jobs that are typically go unnoticed. But we would like to be sure that you understand that this is a message. And I'm not sure that you really want to give that message. Thank you. We're looking for, by the way, we are looking forward to getting back. We are very committed to having, having renewed energy. And hopefully we'll be seeing you guys in the next couple weeks.
Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
Nicole Chrisman.
Good evening. I've been in the district for 15 years. I have 7 children. 2 of them have graduated out of the district. I have 2 in the high school, 3 in the elementary school. My oldest son actually also attended MBIT. So it's a lot of bus rides. They did school sports, after school clubs, all that kind of stuff, tons of bus rides. Never in the 15 years have we experienced any of the issues that we've experienced in the first 13 days of school with transportation. I'm not going to go into details about my transportation issue. You all are very well aware of it. It's still not been addressed. I've done everything the transportation told me to do on our September 4th phone call, yet it has still not been addressed. My focus tonight is how this came to be and how it is going to eventually get fixed. Please do not try and blame this on bus driver shortage. I'm sure bus driver shortage plays a part in it, but bus driver shortage did not wipe out all of the old routes and create brand new ones from scratch. Bus driver shortage did not load 84 plus kids on a bus with a 77 capacity. This is completely the fault of poor planning, poor execution, and inexperienced staff. From what has been told to us through email and what is readily available on the district website, all the routes were wiped out and new ones were put in place with the assistance of a software program. And I'm pretty sure it didn't work. The technology that you use is only as good as the person entering the data into the program. If they don't know how to interpret what comes out of it, nothing can be done with it. I don't want to stand here and publicly shame anyone. I am just completely baffled at how this came to be and is still going on and can't be fixed. Anyone can easily see that the issue is not bus driver shortage, it's the routes. The routes are illogical. The buses are driving around in circles, wasting time and fuel. My high schooler's bus passes the same exact house 3 times before it ever leaves my development. While I'm sure that the driver shortage does play a small part in it, I don't understand how you guys did not know that we had 150 bus drivers last year and going into 137, 134, 130, whatever the number is this year, that before the school year started, this wasn't going to be a problem. Why, if you preach transparency, why did this not get brought to the parents before the school year started? I am sure there are plenty of parents in this district that are stay-at-home parents, which I used to be, that would gladly drive their kids to school if they could to help with the overload of the shortage, but they weren't even given that option. It was not presented. Was never really a great math student, but math has taught me a great life skill, and that is how to systematically fix a problem. When your teacher had you, write out your whole entire, show all your work on the math thing, nobody liked to do it. But if you showed your work and you got the answer wrong, you could go backwards and look at your work and see where the problem came in. All the transportation department needs to do is go from point A to point B and see where the problem came in the middle. The problem is in the routes. I understand there were some issues last year and the year before, and I understand that you're saying that there is people that have been on it for the past couple of years, but they were using old routes that were already there.
Thank you, Ms. Chrisman.
Thank you.
I was asked to put Bernadette Heenan on the list. I saw her, so she's still there. You're hiding. Hi, Bernadette.
And while Bernadette comes up, Ms. Crispin, let me just give one point of clarification there. We did not have, or I should say First Student did not have 150 drivers for us last year, nor the year before. So we've been dealing with this shortage.
Bernadette Heenan, Richborough.
I'm sorry, folks. Could we hold it down so...
First, I would like to say thank you to these faces that I recognize in the audience. The individuals that have been in this community for years, have driven buses for years. I'd also like to say thank you. This morning when I was out walking, we have a special needs child in our development, and the bus aide was assisting this child with such love and such compassion. It was truly amazing. So it totally made my day, and that's the reason that I'm here this evening. I'm also here this evening to say thank you because these individuals transport my two beautiful grandchildren every single day, 6-year-old grandchildren. My concern, old school, I've been in this community for many, many, many years. Now, this situation happened many years ago. This is not current to Council Rock. But we have had 2 student fatalities, deaths, with children traveling on buses. And I'm not sure if any one of you as board members were aware of this, or even administration was aware of this. Mr. Bialik's cousin, I believe, was killed in a bus accident in Wrightstown. I attended that funeral, and I was supportive with that family. We also had another young girl, 12 years old, who was killed at the intersection of Holland and Lower Holland in 1990. Very suddenly, very unexpectedly, the bus was turning and a cargo truck that was carrying steel inadvertently went into the side window and killed a child. She died immediately. Once again, I attended that funeral and I was with that family. So this is very personal to me. And I understand the technology aspects of this. And I guess where I'm coming from right now is old school, not new school. It's not the technology. It's the people who get up every single morning and, basically give their all. That sit on a bus for countless hours. So that's basically why I'm here. And I thank you for listening to me. But this is something, school safety, bus safety is insurmountable when you've attended 2 funerals.
Is there anyone else who'd like to give public comment this evening? Okay, if you just line up on the wall, we'll take a few more before our first section. Go ahead, Kevin, I'll let you go first.
Hello. April McKnight, Richboro Farms. This is really something to say that the redistricting, from me personally and people within my neighborhood, has been wonderful. The Churchville Elementary School has been wonderful. Mr. Sanko, I spoke with him personally the end of last year, and we discussed some things. But I just want to say that as much as we did not want to move from where we were, that the community, the principal, Mrs. Kingston, the PTO, the Churchville community has been absolutely wonderful. So I just want to give an all-out thank you to everyone here for making it the best possible situation that it could have been. So just publicly, I wanted to thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McKnight, for coming out to say that. It's always good to hear.
Good evening, Kevin Campbell, Upper Makefield, bus route number 51 for my daughter Madison Campbell. Let me say that I was initially appalled by some of the stories that I encountered personally, but it doesn't even touch a candle to what I'm hearing tonight. When we as a community or as a board, for lack of a better term, mess up, we really mess up, but good. This one is an epic fail across the board. And it doesn't look like we're coming out of it anytime soon. As a first responder, I'm still hearing buses are overloaded and to capacity. I wonder if any of the fire departments or EMS have been notified, because if there's an incident, it's going to be a mass casualty, and I hate to bring it up in such a way, but we've had 2 fatalities already. Traffic, roads, they're not getting any better, and we're going into the winter season. I do give Dr. Frazier credit for communicating. Unfortunately, It's probably not what we want to hear, but although it's news, nonetheless. I am a little bit surprised that the principals are not notifying the parents as they did previous years. I do hear that it's not because of redistricting, but then I look around and I say to myself, what else really changed? Guilt by association is one thing, but then we tried to solve a problem and we made it worse. If we did nothing, would we be in better shape today than would we be in better shape now than by not doing anything, would we be in a better situation and then try to figure out how to save money and redo the routes? I still think we have an issue with technology. I think buses are getting lost. We don't have drivers with these that can get them back on track much faster than a phone call. And on my last note, back to school night needs to be at least a week after a full back to week school. Thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll end our first session of public comment. If you care to make any further public comment, we'll have another session at the end of the business meeting. I'll start by asking Mr. Hidalgo to take item number G for approval, please.
I move to approve the minutes of the Public School Board meeting on August 22nd, 2019.
Thank you, Dr. Thorward. Any questions, comments, any objections? Hearing none, I'd ask the Secretary to note the motion passes with unanimous consent. Mr. Hidalgo, if you could read item H, the approval of the PBSA officers.
I move to approve the Pennsylvania School Board Association slate of candidates to serve in each position as contained in the attachment to this agenda.
So this is simply our affirmation of the candidates for PBSA. Any questions?
Second.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Kristen, second?
Second.
Second there. Any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, I'd ask the Secretary to note that that passes with unanimous consent. Ms. McKee, if you wouldn't mind, we're going to go to Finance Committee first so that we can get bond counsel out of here. So, Ms. Brooks, if you could handle the Finance Committee agenda in lieu of Mr. Bialik's absence. Start with the consent agenda, please.
I move to approve items B through G as contained in the attachments to this agenda.
Second. Dr. Thorward, quick on the button tonight. Any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, I'd ask the Secretary to note consent agenda passed with unanimous consent, and we'll move to the approval of resolutions to authorize bonds. Mr. Stone, you want to? Or do you, actually, why don't we move read the motion first, please, and then we'll get to these.
I move to approve the attached Series B of 2019 bond resolution to authorize and direct the issuance of the bonds to finance the current refunding of all or a portion of the 2013 bonds and to finance the current refunding of all or a portion of the Series A of 2013 bonds and the attached bonds of 2020 resolution to authorize and direct the issuance of the bonds to finance the current refunding of all or a portion of the Series A of 2015 bonds. The required savings on the 2013 bonds, Series A of 2013 bonds, and the Series A of 2015 bonds shall be no less than 2% of the refunded par value.
Second.
A second? Again. Mr. Stone, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Block. Yeah, this is a bond refinancing transaction. It is to be conducted in 2 steps. I will invite Mr. Reed up to the podium, bond counsel, to give an overview of the resolution that is to be presented. But the important points for the board to note are this resolution provides the structure under which the transaction should take place. It gives the board full authority to act when it is in the best interest of the district or to not act if interest rates move unfavorably. So, Mr. Reed, please.
Thank you, Mr. Stone. Members of the board, Kevin Reed with King Spry, pleasure to be back before you. That's a good launching off spot. The control with regards to both of these resolutions is the key parameter, excuse me, is the last point that's mentioned in the motion, which is you control the minimum, the floor, so not the ceiling, not the greatest level of savings you can get, but the minimum floor, which is 2% of the refunded par value, which has been a consistent parameter that the board has used previously. This is not a new concept for the board. I will say this, there are two transactions before you, that's why there's two resolutions. And the reason there's two resolutions is because the series of 2013 and series of 2013A are currently refundable. In other words, there's call provisions, and you can take forward that transaction after things get set in stage with the board moving forward. The second resolution relates to 2015A bonds. Those are not currently refundable. We have to wait to next year. However, from an efficiency standpoint, it made sense to present this opportunity to the board now, such that if rates cooperate in 2020, that you can have the same opportunity then, that hopefully you have in a couple weeks with regards to the series of 2013, 2013A. Matters are rate sensitive, and we've said this to you before. We cannot crystal ball it. We don't know what the rates are going to be given in any day. The main benefit, however, of these resolutions is it gives you a broader window of time. Instead of coming before you in one specific moment in time, you have multiple points of time, hopefully to realize the savings. And it's simply exchanging higher interest rates for lower interest rates. And as Mr. Stone has indicated, you maintain the control. If we're not hitting those milestones, we don't go forward. There's no professional fees. The only thing is there's advertising fees. Your financial advisor is very sensitive and have a fiduciary responsibility to look at the rates and communicate that with your business officer, your business office, and therefore educate on an appropriate time to move forward such if the threshold level is there and present. I will stop and pause to see if there's any questions.
Mr. Stone, I see we've got a 2% savings there. Do we have a targeted savings rate in terms of real dollars?
I can speak to that,
Sure.
yes. So right now, the conservative estimates, and these are based on rates when we presented at Finance Committee. Rates change every single day, so they will be somewhere in this neighborhood. On the first step of the transaction, which would be refunding all or a portion of Series A of 2013 and 2013, the savings are estimated at about $420,000. And for the second opportunity, refunding the Series A of 2015 would be savings of approximately $375,000.
That's great. Thanks for that. And I think it's important that the public understand what happens. You guys have done great work together with our business office in the past, and we look forward to seeing that again.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Reed? Anything else on this, Mr. Stone? Are we okay to go ahead and vote?
Nothing further.
May I have a roll call, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. Motion passes 8-0. Thank you, Mr. Reed. Mr. Stone, and with that, Ms. Brooks, we move to I, please.
I move to approve the agreement with Transportation Services, Inc. in the form attached to this agenda and at the rates set forth therein for transportation to and from athletic events on dates as authorized by the district's transportation manager.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Salomon. I think we've heard a lot about transportation. Does the board have any specific questions for Mr. Stone on why we're doing this? Are there any objections? Hearing none, I'd ask the secretary to note that the motion passed with unanimous consent. Hopefully, this takes just a little piece of things off our afternoon rides.
Every bit helps.
So glad we're trying to find solutions out here. Ms. Brooks, we go to J.
I move to approve the indemnification agreement with Centennial School District in the form attached to this agenda to provide shuttle transportation from the Middle Bucks Institute of Technology to Archbishop Wood High School for Council Rock School District resident students.
Second. Thank you, Dr. Thorwart. Similar to the last, any questions for Mr. Stone here? Okay. Any objections? Hearing none, I'd ask the secretary to note the motion passed with unanimous consent. I hear a comment coming.
Yeah, if I may, I just want to commend Mr. Stone for this. Really good work, creative thinking, outside the box thinking. Centennial was already transporting a bus with students from MBIT to Wood. We were not otherwise, other than 3 students. The situation was causing our bus to get back late to North. late to their classes, missing class time day after day after day. So Mr. Stone is the one that spearheaded this with the business administrator over there in Centennial. Got all the I's dotted and T's crossed. I just had a cleanup conversation with Centennial Superintendent, but the work was done. Mr. Cox put his eyes on everything and was comfortable with it. So a really good solution that helps out these MBIT/North students. So
Excellent. Thanks, great work. Mr. Salomon, we're not going to let you off the hook tonight. If you could please take K and L together, please.
Well, thank you, Mr. Block. The Human Resources, apologize. I move to approve the personal actions as contained in the attachments to this agenda.
Second.
And then L would be, I move to also approve the personal actions addendum as contained in the attachment to this agenda.
I'll second that. All right. Mr. Salomon with seconds by Dr. Thorward. Any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, I'd ask the Secretary to note that the motion's passed with unanimous consent. And with that, Ms. McKee, we'll bring it back to the top of the agenda for the Education Committee, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Block. I have no report. The Education Committee will meet next week, Thursday, September 26th. I do, however, have a number of items that require board action. I move to approve consent agenda items B through D as contained in the attachment to this agenda.
Second.
I'm sorry, did I hear a second over there? He's distracting me today. We will do that. I'll come back to it. Any objections? Hearing none, I ask the Secretary to note that the motion passes with unanimous consent, and I think we'll go to, is it letter E?
Thank you. I move to approve the attached contract between CRSD and LearnWell subject to audit.
Second.
Ms. Marcel? Any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, I'd ask the Secretary to note the motion passed with unanimous consent. Letter F, please.
I move to approve the agreement between Council Rock and Instructure for the 2019-2020 Canvas Tier 1 support contract per the attached contract, subject to audit.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Tate. Any questions for Dr. Elliott on this?
I would just note that this is to assist us in rolling out Canvas and supporting our teachers so we get it rolled out.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, and a quick shout out here that I didn't learn until this morning, but Dr. Elliott has shared with us at the cabinet table that basically this help support has been offered primarily by Mr. Truskevich, assistant principal at North, Rick Cargus, I think also to some extent, but Mr. T over there in North has basically been giving up his Saturdays in their entirety to start the school year, just answering teachers' questions and helping out. Just it's new. So, there's that sort of demand. So this is a good move overall, and also a good move for the Truskevich family, I think.
If I may, Dr. Elliott, has the rollout of Canvas gone well overall?
I would say yes, it has. I think that it's a learning process. There's a lot of work that teachers do to build their courses. So if you think about building a course, anytime you're developing something, they're starting from scratch, building their courses in the platform. So there are probably more teachers than we had anticipated that wanted to jump in and put their courses out there and publish them right away, which I think has led to increased numbers of questions and people asking for help. Our technology integration specialists, both at the middle school and high school, have been invaluable in all of this and really supporting teachers. They've done a lot of preemptive work in August to set up courses and engage teachers in helping them understand how the platform works, and are very supportive and also forward thinking and kind of what are the questions people are going to have, and let's try to be as proactive as we can. So things are going well. Teachers are we've given parents directions for how to access Canvas, and we've gotten some feedback from some parents that they're getting way too many notifications, because whenever in a course that their students are in, whenever a change is made in that course, an assignment's uploaded or something, if you're an observer in the course, the default is you get a notification for every change in that course. So we've given parents directions for how to log in and change your notifications so you can reduce or increase, if you wish,
the number of notifications that you get for each of your students' courses. So things are going well. The next thing that we're going to be doing is testing the grade passback between Canvas and our hack and tack system to make sure the grades go effectively. So once we have that testing done and have worked out some of those bugs and kinks, then we'll turn that on for all of the courses as well. So it's going well and moving along very smoothly.
Good, thank you.
Yep.
Hey, Dr. Elliott, thank you for this. I had a question because I know some of the teachers are old school and they're not very technically savvy, so to speak. And for those teachers, it might take a little bit longer for them to accept or integrate this into their instruction. And I guess we give that leeway for the teachers to be able to use this, or is there a ramp up where they'll have no choice but to use Canvas, or can they continue to use Google Classrooms? And that was my question.
That's a great question. We have a timeline, and we have our anticipated full implementation of every single course from 7th through 12th grade on Canvas and fully operational in Canvas is the start of the 21-22 school year. So we have a 2-year kind of period to get everything up there and working. And I think that the value of our technology integration specialists at both the middle school and high school is what's really important here. They're Council Rock teachers. They know their colleagues. They know who those people are who maybe are a little bit more hesitant or unsure of how to best use technology. And they're very astute at differentiating their support for those folks and in essence, holding hands when they need to help people walk through things, and also letting people who want to just keep going and try different things, helping them to do that as well. So we're providing the kind of support that's needed to help everybody be successful.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any more questions or comments for Dr. Elliott? Sorry. Any objections? Hearing none, I'd ask the secretary to note that the motion passes with unanimous consent, and we'll take item number G, please, or letter G, please.
Thank you. I move to approve the 2020-2023 CRSD comprehensive plan as contained in the attachments to this agenda.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hidalgo. Dr. Frazier just stepped out of the room. I almost wish he hadn't, but the reality is he's led a team, cross-functional, includes staff, student, community members, board members. A ton of work has gone into this. It's not a paperwork exercise as perhaps it's been in the past. It's also a different world, in my opinion, than it's been in the past. And the work was truly outstanding. We've gone through it several times in committee meetings. We've gone through it here. We've put it out for public comment for the last 30 days, and now really it's in this board's hands to empower the incredible work that will guide what we do around student wellness, achievement, security, and safety over the course of the next 3 or 4 years. So I'm really proud of the team we have in place. It's easy to be obvious when you get something wrong. It's a lot harder to set yourself up to do something really right, and I think we do a lot of good things here. And from an educational perspective, I think we've really got a great plan, and for that I'm thankful to be a member of the community. I'm really glad to be voting on this. Are there any other comments that anybody on the board might want to make, or any questions?
Just a thank you to everyone who participated. It's a solid plan, as Andy stated, and just thank you to everyone for the time that they spent and all of their contributions.
I'll just say it wouldn't have been easy to not take as robust an approach to its development because, in some ways it's sort of just check the box. This is something that we have to do. Like you said, I am also very proud because there's so much proactivity on things that really matter for kids. And so, Dr. Frazier said it's, 8 years of work and a 4-year plan. And the fact that nobody involved in the development of that plan looked at that as a reason to turn away from very high priorities. So, bravo.
All right, I'm going to ask for a roll call to make everybody vote on this, please.
Kristen Marcel,
Yes.
Ed Solomon,
Yes.
Andy Block,
Yes.
Ed Tate,
Yes.
Michael Thorwald,
Yes.
Denise Brooks,
Yes.
Mary McKee,
Yes.
Joe Hidalgo.
Yes.
Motion passes 8-0. Congratulations, everybody. We're off on our future. With that, we'll move to letter H, which is Ms. Brooks, the Bucks County IU update, please.
So the IU met this week for the first time in the current school year. Luckily, I suppose. The legislature just recently reconvened, so there was not much legislative discussion, which generally dominates a large portion of our conversation. So got out of that meeting an hour earlier than we usually do.
That means the update will be quick, right?
Yes. So I just want to do just a couple of high points. At our meeting, we did discuss district by district the services that the IU performs, because it's, not every district gets the same services. So it's wonderful to see, the ways that the IU supports us. But one of the truly amazing things that distinguishes the Bucks County IU is their effort to really take the lead on trying to advance things for the county as a whole. Their efforts, vaping programs, new school director training, continuing education for teachers. There are people from other districts across the state come to the IU for programs or contract with the IU because they are really considered at the forefront of the kinds of services that are done. One example of this is something that a lot of people know is a passion of mine. 6 years ago when I joined the board, one of the things that I really wanted to explore was later start times for high school students. And it's a very challenging effort, and it's you can't do it in isolation. There's so many moving parts, and the IU recognized the momentum of some of that interest and is really helping to steer efforts and create some efficiencies in learning. So this Monday night from 6 to 8 at the IU in Doylestown, there is a Bucks County School Start Time Forum. The guest speaker is Amy Goldman, who's a school director in Radnor Township. That township just this year started later start times for their high school. I believe they started 8:30. So it'll be interesting to hear how that district handled the issues, and an opportunity for anyone in attendance to speak to other school districts to see what they're doing. I know Dr. Frazier is attending. Unfortunately, because it starts at 6 o'clock and I work in New York on Mondays, I'm unable to attend, but I encourage anyone who wants to please go to that. And that's all I've got.
Thank you, Ms. Brooks. Ms. Marcel, Ms. McKee, if there's anything to talk about MBIT, and then also if you want to go straight to Council Rock Education Foundation.
Thank you. Always good things to report from MBIT, starting with the lintels. You'll be happy to know that each of the 4 member districts did approve the funding for the lintel repairs. Bid documents have been prepared, and it's currently going out to bid. The next steps after advertising for that is hopefully, should an acceptable bid be received, the work could begin and ideally be completed the second week in December before the weather becomes an issue. Next, we reviewed and approved a proposed technology plan to support the school's technology needs and the direction for the next 3 years. And it should be noted that along with that plan, it needs to include the development of a capital budget plan. So that's part and process of the technology plan, and that would be shared with the Executive Council and eventually have to be approved in the budget process by MBIT. And then 2 items regarding the MBIT facility condition assessment, which we have discussed in the past. This is the Bustamante report on the structure of the buildings and the various systems of the buildings. First of all, Dr. Frazier, our superintendent of record, has reached out to his colleague superintendents in trying to organize an effort to coordinate with each district's facility managers to meet with the facility manager at MBIT so that they can participate together in planning those renovation projects. And that idea seemed to have been well received. And then finally, the funding for that condition assessment, there was a meeting of the business administrators from each district to discuss possible funding for that. And I believe that you've requested more information for finance scenarios for your October meeting. Yes, Mr. Stone's nodding. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. McKee. Council Rock Education Foundation. Oh, do you have a comment?
I'm sorry, yeah, just real quickly, just to fill in the blank there. So Ms. McKee is absolutely correct on the directors of operations getting together and then meeting. Mr. Taylor, correct me if I'm wrong, has been set up for next Wednesday, 6 days from now.
So I have a few updates for CREC. I'll try to make it brief. One is, and most important, is that we have the Council Rock Golf Classic on Thursday, October 3rd at Northampton Country Club. I know Mr. Black will be there. I will be as well. And I look forward to seeing more board members and others from the community to join this wonderful event. We also have an event coming up that my daughter is actually really excited about, is the Welcome Back District-Wide Glow Dance. It is for 4th to 6th graders throughout the district. It's at the Fuge. Parents have to attend with their children. And the tickets go to benefit PTOs and also for innovative projects district-wide. And so I will definitely be at that dance. I hope that others will as well. We also have the Council Rock Pumpkin Fest, which is at Shady Brook Farm. That's on Wednesday, October 23rd. They have hay rides, a corn maze, a haunted house without actors, bonfires, and again, the benefits from that go to PTOs. So it's a great event. I'm hoping to go this year. I've heard wonderful things from some of the parents that have attended, and again, just hope everyone checks that out. We also have a Raising Great Kids speaker series that is sponsored by Jefferson Health and presented in partnership with CREF and Crunchy. This year's presentation will focus on youth health and wellness. That will be, the first presentation will be October 16th. It's called Strength Over Silence, and it's presented by the National Alliance on Mental Illness. And so, again, great events. I know that I covered a lot, and so I would just tell people to check out the website, which is creducationfoundation.org, and also to check the weekly CR News updates that go out, because a lot of these events are in those updates. So thank you, and see everyone at the Golf Classic.
And to quickly piggyback on that, the National Alliance of Mental Illness, NAMI, that is our district charity this year as part of our student wellness initiative.
Mr. Tate, policy, please.
Thank you, Mr. Block. We met on September 9 and worked through about 14 policies. We have tonight 2 new policies and 10 revised policies. I move to approve consent items B and C as contained in this agenda.
Ms. Marcel got you. She's just not as loud. Any questions for Mr. Tate? Any objections? Hearing none, I'd ask the Secretary to note that the motion passes with unanimous consent. And with that, Dr. Thorwart will move to the Facilities Committee, please.
Let me start by thanking Mr. Salvo for running my meeting. I was back to school night. Kevin told you did a fantastic job. I won't add too much other than we got to see from the architects the new Achieve building that night. Fantastic work. We're moving forward. We've got everything on the calendar to get rolling on there. I personally got to see several of your security vestibules. Good work on that as well. Move through. Anything I missed?
No, just some updates on Saul Feinstone discovering a time chamber at Rolling Hills in the ground, and some other updates on various buildings.
Okay. Do you have anything to...
I'll just say that the 10,000-gallon tank we encountered at Rolling Hills was tested negative, so it was generally water. And for $3,000...
So how old was that water?
It was 10,000 gallons of water. It was designed to be a sanitary holding tank before public sewer came to the building.
How old was it, though, roughly speaking? Any idea?
I mean, it's 71. How old did you say? Yeah.
Can we auction off opportunities to drink it to raise money for that?
Cannot. It is being legally removed and disposed of for a very low sum, and we found a good way to address the issue. So we had positive news out of a big surprise.
That's
so.
awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect. With that, I move to approve items B through H as contained in the attachments to this agenda.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Marceau. Any questions? Any objections? Hearing none, I'd ask the secretary to note that that motion passes with unanimous consent. And with that, we're going to move to our, actually, I'm going to move just this up. We did have one item from the Finance Committee to cover now, so rather than new business, why don't we do it before public comment?
Certainly.
Mr. Stone.
Thank you. So at our Finance Committee meeting, one item that we talked about as it was a discussion item was regarding the funds that are in an account known as Turf the Rocks. This is a legacy fundraising effort to install artificial turf fields at both Council Rock High School North and Council Rock High School South. As the board is well aware, that project at Council Rock South is now underway in the design phase. So it was my recommendation to the Finance Committee that the funds that remain in that legacy account be utilized to offset some of the costs for that project. The amount that is in your financial report this evening is $219,888. So my recommendation is that those funds be utilized for that project. The plan is to close that bank account. However, we will continue to monitor the revenue that we generate through our current agreements for our artificial turf field, as well as new agreements that are set forth in when the new field is in place, and it could also be utilized for any other new fundraising efforts that the district might undertake. So funds will still be separately accounted for. They just will no longer reside in that account, and the committee asked that I provide that update in the spirit of transparency, as this was a major community fundraising effort over a number of years.
Yep, excellent. Any questions on that? I think everybody was there. Thank you, Mr. Stone. All right, with that, we'll move to our second session of public comment. Is there any public comment? Yeah, just to go ahead and line up and come on up.
Okay, Kevin Campbell, Upper Mayfield. Earlier I finished on a note about back to school. I found back to school to be very immediate upon getting out of the summer. It seemed like the teachers, the parents were kind of forced into that night. And then on top of that, I did find an overlapping issue with all the educators, that the Canvas nuance was taking up most of their limited time in getting into the groove, and they were very frustrated with it. I apparently signed up to get notifications. I don't recall that, but I will tell you as a parent, I am getting way too many, and I would suggest that if we could do it on a maybe weekly summary of all the students, the per student basis, that would be nice. But I am happy to see the technology kind of take the next step. My last comment, and I hate to bring it up again, but there's no way around it, is back to transportation. In the past, this board has been open and reached out to the public. They have reached out to previous employees for assistance. It has come to my attention that we have individuals that were in this audience that were doing roles in the routing of former administrations for last year. And we're not utilizing them to help us fix this problem. I'm not sure why, but from what I heard in a break outside, there's at least 12 significant things that we can do that they're not being listened to that could fix this problem, and they're offering to help, and we're closing the door to them. I would implore you to reach out to those people that were doing the job to help fix this crisis that we're going through, to get us over the hurdle and maybe see it a different way. They know the routes backwards and forwards in the back of their hands. If anything, they're a resource, and I think the community would be greatly appreciative if you would reach out to them and see if they can offer something other than not being heard. Thank you.
Appreciate that perspective. Mr. Campbell, just for clarification's sake, those folks were not in the transportation department routing last year, 18-19 school year. They had been prior to that.
they're offering to help, I will take it.
Understood. And we have accepted the offer to help.
Hello, Katie Gannon.
I'm sorry, just your name and your township for this.
Katie Gannon, Northampton Township.
Thank you.
I just wanted to make you aware that there's a lot of kids that have a different AM and PM bus now, and I guess Blackboard is the communication you use. So I know last week there was an incident where a child took a bus in the morning and a bus in the afternoon. The bus that he takes in the morning was running late in the afternoon, and a parent got notification, and it wasn't specific. It just said your bus was running late, so she assumed it was the afternoon bus. So I don't know if that has gotten fixed since then, if anyone even knew that was a situation, but maybe you could just look into that to see, because that may be a little confusion there too.
Thanks for bringing
I
that
just
up.
wanted to just let you know that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's very
Okay.
helpful.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further public comment? If there's no further public comment, we'll go to the board. Is there any new business from the board?
I've got one.
Dr. Thorwald?
Just an announcement, nothing big. It's come to my attention that there's going to be a 3-on-3 basketball marathon at Richboro Middle School for the Scott Mills Scholarship Fund on September 28th. I've asked Mrs. Grady to blast that out for anybody who's interested, just to support that. So just wanted to add that as a public service.
Any other new business?
Sure.
I prefer probably not to mention this, but I took an oath, and I feel pretty animate about that. I have to ask about overcrowding of buses, because I feel like that's been put out there, and we didn't really discuss it tonight, but I know that 100% of us should have a zero tolerance for moving a bus when there's kids not sitting in a seat. I mean, the seat is their safety mechanism. It's their belt buckle. You wouldn't drive your kids around without a seatbelt on, and sometimes it inadvertently happens, and you tell them, put your seatbelt on. So I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I think that I need to know that we have a zero tolerance for bus drivers moving the bus when there's not kids seated properly for safety purposes. And they talked about death of 2 students. It drives me. It really hurts, to think about that we might be doing that. I don't want that on my shoulders. I want to make sure that there's a zero tolerance for that. And I tried to ask, well, people say that they did that. Well, give me a student name. Give me a bus number. So no one really ever came up with an actual incident that I've been verified. But I know that you guys are doing everything you can. You believe the same way that I do. Everybody on this board does. And I really want to make sure that we are, that is addressed, because I feel like that, if we have to get a campaign to get more bus drivers in here, whatever we need to do, we have to go over and above what we're doing to get that solved. And if we have to circle back, that's what we're doing, and it's a shame. But the thing that we can't do is move a bus when the kids aren't properly seated. And the last question I would ask was, you have 77 student capacity, but maybe that's if they're little kindergartners and it's a certain age where there's a differentiation where you go to 2 people a seat. How are we assuring that we're not going to, I know you guys are doing it, but just to know me personally, to see how that's happening would be great. And that's what I had to say. I have to bring that out.
And I appreciate that, Joe. So let me respond to that first piece from a couple of different angles. One is, first and foremost, the responsibility of overcrowding is ours. It's not the bus drivers. That's our responsibility in terms of routing and in terms of assigning students to a particular bus. As far as I know, and I'm pretty sure I know, we are through overcrowding issues. Now, again, fully transparent, I had made a comment, 10 days ago, saying no more overcrowded buses, and then one literally just in the past couple of days popped up. So it's addressed as of yesterday / this morning, and that change is going into effect. That was a good bus number 8. So those changes have been made. I literally do not know of any other overcrowded buses, and I'm told that we don't have any other overcrowded buses And so you ask for zero tolerance, and yeah, that's absolutely where it's at. In fact, I was in a conversation yesterday, said, listen, some of these issues that come in, we handle this way, we handle that way. Overcrowded, we handled 5 minutes ago. Like, we're already late. We're already behind for the reasons that you're saying. And then the second piece to that, of course, is if we do have an overcrowding issue, and, this overcrowding word, if it's 77 or 76 or 72 on a bus, that's a full bus. So it might feel overcrowded. Technically, from a legal standpoint, it might not be overcrowded, but it certainly feels crowded, if not overcrowded. Absolutely, we got to make sure our bus drivers are not pulling out until every single child is seated. And I'm confident, I don't get this data sent directly to me, but I'm confident that the vast majority of our bus drivers are doing that. But then again, just within the past couple of days, I had a father send an email, and it wasn't within the past couple of days, I think it was the first week of school, where that didn't happen. And he observed it. And so thank you for bringing it to our attention. We brought it to first students' attention. They then bring it to the driver's attention and say, hey, can't have this. Here's why. No more of this. And then it seems to be issue-free since then. So, yeah, we're addressing it. No one, myself included, is going to sit up here and say, hey, everything is clicking on all cylinders, everything is perfect, we're working hard. We will continue to work hard. That's the commitment that we are all making. And certainly if we can bring other people into the fold to help us out, as has been suggested, really we've already done that. But if we can do more of that, we will. Because all that matters is getting this to the best possible place that we can.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I just wanted to make that out there because of what I wanted to make sure is that ultimately it is the bus driver, not their fault for the routes the way they are. But if they have students, too many students on their bus, they have to know the protocol, and whatever that protocol is, has to be followed.
Right.
So that, God forbid, something were to happen, we couldn't come back here and say, or they couldn't come back and say, well, you overcrowded that bus, or the bus driver did that. It's too much for any of us to bear.
Absolutely. Yep. Inexcusable.
Real quick, and what would, Dr. Frazier, what would the protocol in that instance, if we're down the road and we have a situation where the bus driver feels that the bus is tight, what do they do with the child that they feel is that much more than the bus can handle?
So they are not permitted to transport more than 77 students. So
do they notify first student? Do they notify us?
They notify
do they
first
tell
student
the child
because
and the
that's
parents?
that's their employer. First student notifies us, and then it is at that point completely incumbent upon us to make that change. But they are not permitted to transport, 1/10 of a mile with.
And it needs to be reiterated so the people watching and the people here understand that there are protocols in place so that safety is always paramount for our children.
For sure. For sure.
Any other comment on the subject? Any other new business? Any old business? Okay, that's it. See you in October.
I never thought, thank you for